Start streaming. So you'll let me know if my live stream isn't working, correct? I'm going to assume that it is, and I'm going to start. So I'm going to go over to the Layers tab. Do that now. Z, go to the Layers tab. And right now I've got player layer, ground, background layer. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to rename it HUD for Heads Up Display. So we've got our HUD layer. I'm going to select it to make sure our HUD layer is active. And I'm going to create a text object. So double click anywhere, find that text box, and then hit insert. So right now I click, I will place it, and I have a little bitty tiny box that says text. I'm going to change the name of this to TXT message because we're continually using this TXT message. So that's the name of it. And I'm going to change the color and the font. I'm going to leave the font there, but I'm going to increase the size to 72. Font becomes 72. My text disappears until I make this big enough to hold the 72-point font. And I'm going to change this text part here to be tap to jump. Tap to jump fits in there. I'm going to change the color to be another custom color. And I'm going to set the red, green, and blue to 50, 50, 50. Jacob, you with me? So I added a text object. I named it text message. Okay.
Wait, how'd you do 50 by 50 by 50?
I went into color, so I clicked the color here, click the drop down, click other, and then on a standard tab, I went over to custom, and I typed in 50, 50, 50 for the red, green, blue. Okay? So tap to jump is there. I'm also going to change this horizontal alignment to be center, vertical alignment to be center, and hotspot to be center. So now everything's kind of where I want it to be on the screen. Okay? Jacob, were you able to add that text piece? Not responding here, so you make text piece. I am live streaming. It started now. There it is. I have a bunch. So we'll go here.
It's on the HUD layer. You have to make the HUD layer.
Is it responding? We're going to force it to quit. We're going to restart. So we force it to quit. We're going to go to folder explorer. And this is the project you just worked on. Infinite Runner. This is what I want to start up. Infinite Runner. Now we're back. We have this here. We're going to go to layers. Get a new layer. HUD, heads up display. And then on this new layer, we're going to add text object. We're going to name it TXT message. And then we're going to set the font size to be right now really big. Okay. So set it really big, and then we're going to change it from text to tap to jump. Okay. So we've got our tap to jump message on there. We've set our color, we organized it, and then I'm going to move it to center just by eye, but I can actually cheat a little bit. Right now I'm at 427.921 because I know my size is 427. If I just delete that 0.91, I know that that's centered on the screen. The color matches, tap to jump is there. And we have our size. So that's basically right here. I just said position to 427 because I know that's midway through the screen.
0.131, and then what is the other number?
I don't care about the 0.131. The size is how big this is right now. These numbers don't matter. The only one that matters is setting it to 427 because if it's not 427, it won't be centered. But as soon as I change this number to 427, it becomes centered. The other numbers are unimportant. Okay, so there's my tap to jump, and I'm going to go back into the game sheet, and we're going to add a new global variable. So I'm going to right-click up at the top, add global variable, And this variable is going to be called first touch. Okay? And it's going to start at 0. So I've got a variable first touch at 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to add an event on the bottom, and it's going to see and ask the system to see if the first touch is equal to 0. So it's going to be system compare variable first touch is equal to 0. So if first touch is equal to 0, we're going to add a new sub event on here. So I'm going to right click and choose add sub event. And for the sub event, I'm going to say system on touch. And it's going to be on any touch.
Wait, where did you go for that?
To get the new sub event?
Yes, I have a new sub event.
I went right clicked, add new sub event, and it's on my system touch, first touch equals 0.
So wait, what is it, compare variable?
This is compare variable, yes.
No, the sub event, because for some reason it's not showing up where if I'm looking. Oh, it's the touch is what you're looking at. Okay.
Touch is what I'm looking at. So I've got system. So what we're going to do here is we have got first touch system equal to 0, a sub event on here that says on any touch start, and then the action that we're going to do here is we're going to say text message set opacity to 0, and we're going to add another action that says system set value of first touch, and we're going to set it to 1. Okay? Now, what that's going to do for us is when the layout starts, we'll have this tap to jump on the screen, and as soon as we click, it disappears. Okay? So our instructions go away when we start to click.
I'm just wondering, don't you want to set the opacity to 100 at the start of the layout?
On the start of the layout, absolutely, but we're going to do something else with it.
No, I'm wondering.
Because right now, tap to jump, it comes back. But now notice it doesn't know to set the opacity back to 0 because first touch is still equal to 1 right now, so it skipped that instruction.
So you got to set it. You got to.
So right now we're going to go find that system is alive is equal to 0. And on that is alive is equal to 0, we're going to add another action. And it's going to be text message set opacity. We're going to set it back to 100. And we're going to move it before the 3-second wait. And then we're going to ask it to set the text to game over. So we're going to add another action, text message. This is set text. And it's going to be game over. And I'm going to put a little frowny face there. Okay? And that has to happen again before the 3-second wait. Z, you with me? All right. Scroll back down. You don't have those things, so you're not going with what's on the screen and what's on the live stream. It was game over, and I put a frowny face on there. See, you gotta keep going. What's the next thing you have to do? So it's system. First touch, so compare variable. First touch is equal to 0. Did you make a variable first touch? You gotta go back. Right click compare add. Right click right here. Now, first touch. Okay. So, right now we added that, so sets it back to game over. And it sets the on start of layout back at the beginning, we're going to add a new action here, and we're going to say the system has to set the value of first touch back to 0. And I'll leave that up here with the other variables. So first touch comes back to 0. And let's test and see what the gameplay does now. Okay, so tap to jump is here. Tap to jump goes away. I hit the wall. Game over, frowny face for 3 seconds. And now it comes back to this layout. I start over. Tap to jump is there again. I hit another wall or another bullet. Game over. And I saw it drop down a pixel by that fix, but that's okay. So now we've got our instructions working. We've got our game over screen working. What do we need to add in now to encourage the player to keep playing? Score, exactly. We're going to add in a score. So back on the layout, to add in this score, I'm going to right-click on this text message, clone object type, and I'm going to place it over on the HUD. I'm going to change it from text message 2 to txt score. So now it's named txt score. Tap to jump is going to become the word score. And we'll start off at score equals 0. And I want to try something different here. I want to use the color of this, and I want to set it to the background color of my background. So I'm going to use this eyedropper here in this colors. I'm going to pick that same yellow and hit OK. Now I can't see my score, but when I move it down here onto the ground, I can. Okay? So I'm going to move it to the lower right corner. So score is going to build this way. I'm going to set the horizontal alignment from center to right. And I think 72 is a little bit big for the score. Maybe I'll cut it to like 36 and see how it looks. All right, that looks all right. Try and put it in the center. It doesn't need to be as big as the other pieces, so I can kind of shrink it down to fit in there nicely and just kind of let the score grow that way. Okay. Now, back on the game sheet, I need another new variable. So I'm going to right-click up here, add global variable, score. Not scoofer, score. I'm going to add it in. It's going to start off at 0. Down on the event sheet, what we're going to try is add a new event. And we're going to do system every X seconds. And I'll say like 0.4 seconds. Oh, and I'm getting an error because I have to type in 0.4. I'm going to say every 0.4 seconds we'll add action. And it will be to the system, add 2, and I'll add 1 to score. Okay, so I've got the score starting to count, but now I need to go back to the every tick and make the text of the score update with that variable every tick. So back on my every tick, right now the only thing up there is player, set X to starting position, starting player X position. I'm going to add an action here to the score, and I'm going to go set text, and this is going to be the word score with a colon and a space, and like we've done before, ampersand and the variable score. So it's quotes around the word score, a semicolon and a space inside the quotes, an ampersand, and then the actual variable score. Okay? So now, every 0.4 seconds, I'm going to get a point.
You need a semicolon in there?
You do need a semicolon in there, because after the score starts to update...
Where do you, inside or outside the parentheses?
Inside the quotes. There are no parentheses in the score. Inside the quotes, because otherwise, if it's not there, it would just be score with a number next to it and no thing there. Ooh, we've got some issues. What happens here when I get hit?
It still keeps counting.
Still keeps counting. My score didn't reset at the end of the game. So what do you think we have to add?
Set score to 0 once it's live.
On start of layout, we're going to go variable, set value of score to 0. So that way, when the system restarts, score will start off at 0. I'm moving it up top here just to be in line with all my other variables. And then I think that the score is still going to count even when I'm dead. So let's see. Score is counting, score is counting. Yeah, it's still going up. How can we stop the score from counting when we hit a block? What do you got, Josh?
I'm going to probably say when is live is equal to 0, when we have, like when the collision happens, you have to set it the value of the text to add 0 probably or something like that.
Well, we could say basically make the score 0, but then how would people know what their high score is? It would erase it right away.
Yeah.
What I want to do instead, you're right on there. I only want this score to happen, and what we're going to do is on the system, every 0.4 seconds, we're going to add another condition on here that says only do this if is alive is equal to 1. So just like we did with the enemies spawning and moving in the other games, we're going to say this is alive is equal to 1. So this is going to be add another condition. It's going to be system, compare variable, and as long as is alive is equal to 1, it'll add to the score. So now if I run this, score is starting. Oh, game over. Stop counting at 7. Now, the other thing that I want to see, there's my score, it's adding up. Tap to jump is there. Game over. So score, I made it to 25 there. The other thing I want to see is there's going to be a way for us to make it so that it doesn't start the score, it doesn't start counting until, because right now, I got an item, I got a score, I got a count, I got a dodge. It's there. Do we want to add score like every time we jump over a bullet successfully and every time we jump over a wall successfully? Like maybe add like 5 to the score? So how can we do that? Oh, I'm not going to make it over that wall. Game over.
Probably would have to set
well,
a condition in there, but yeah.
I think we'd have to compare. I don't want it to happen every time. I want it to happen once. So if we add an event that compares 2 values, and if we say player.x is equal to enemy.x, enemies.x, I don't know if this will work. But let's see. System.x, players.x. If it's equal to, we're going to add 1 to the score, because that means that at that one moment that they're the same x, they're going to be equal to one another.
Just had an idea.
Okay, we'll try that after. What's your idea?
Well, on 10-11, when it talk about like when the enemy says x is less than 175, you can add an action in there and just say add 1 to the score, because pretty much when that happens.
So when they're destroyed,
to avoid it, so pretty much that's what you can do.
I think that might be a little bit, because there might be a time when you're destroying a bunch, but you've got nothing coming because of the random spawn. So the player might be like, why am I getting more points there when nothing's happening? So let's try it here and see if it jumps up by more than 5 every time I jump. I think there should just be one moment where they're equal. So score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think it ever equaled it, so I don't think we got it. So I'm not going up by 5 at all here. How can we do this?
You could do it so, and this wouldn't necessarily work if you die. I don't know how it would take it, but you could do it so like every time you jump.
Well, let's see. Instead of comparing the player's x is equal to, let's say the x is less than or equal to, but my worry here is that it's going to continually add 5 to that and not just do it once.
Could you say so every time the enemies hit that certain point, so the player's not moving or
Oh, I could. Yeah, the player's not moving. I could make an invisible player that the enemy would collide with, and every time it collides with, it'll add it. Good idea, Mr. Picard. All right. So I'm going to go back to the layout. I'm going to duplicate the player, clone object type, and I'm actually going to go back to the player layer because I want this to be on the player layer. I'll go clone object type for the player, drop it right here, and then this one, because I want to make sure we hit it no matter what, I'm just going to sort of say that this piece here has to be right here. This is not going to be player 3. This is going to be player collision. And from player collision, I'm going to say size and position don't really matter, but I'm going to set the opacity to 0. So now I've got an invisible player wall that's there. And then on the game sheet, I'm actually just going to double up. And every tick where we say set starting X to starting player position, I'm going to clone this piece here. So copy and paste this set X. And I'm just going to swap out the objects. So I'm going to replace objects with the player collision. So now player collision will always be at that X. And then down here on this one, it's going to be not system compared to values. It's going to be player collision on collision with another object. And if that other object is the enemy's family, then we'll add 5 to the score. So now let's run that and see if we get jumps of 5. So there's my player, tap to jump. Yep. I got the points, but I collided with it. So we got to think about that.
So why don't you move it back just a little bit?
Can move it back just a little bit. That way if I collide with it, it won't hit it.
Yeah.
Jumped over that one. I got my bonus points. We could also have, like, think about Donkey Kong where Mario jumps over the barrels, a little +5 appears. We could have a sprite of +5 appears there every time. Now my score is going up. It doesn't have to be 5. I just picked 5 at random. And if I hit here, game over, 101. But I like that idea that Mr. Picard had of saying set X for this one. Every tick to player starting position X. I'm going to say like -5 pixels. See if that does it so that when I hit one, I don't get that 5-point bonus. So let's see. I'm just going to let the first one hit me and see if it jumps up by 5. It did jump up by 5. So 5 must not be enough. Starting position -5. We're going to go -10. And we'll run it. And we'll see if it's able to make it 10 pixels through. It did not jump up. It'll go to my game over. It'll go to my restart. +5, +5, +5. All right. I think that's good for now. There may be a few more enhancements we can add in tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the live stream now, and here's your challenge. Your challenge is going to be work on to get this background on the home layout to be a play button rather than a big pink block like it is in mine. And to think about what you want your sprites to be rather than just rectangles and other pieces for the collision. So here's your last view at the code for right here. We've got a bunch of variables we made. System on start of layout, we added a bunch to. We made this every tick. We made a player collision object. We left the spawning things the same. Enemies spawn the same. And then we just added this on collision, add 5 to score. That's up to you if you want to leave it there. All right, here's where we're going to cut out.